25 of Agentic SaaS Talks. It's a really fun session today. We're here with the founders of Productmind, and we're going to be talking a lot about agentic, the new trends that we're seeing in agentic software development, and how we can use the agentic trends to actually interact with customers better. But before that, I actually want to point out something. This is going to be a European takeover. So Erwin's going to run the show. Productmind's going to be talking about things from a global perspective, but also from a European base. And so one of the really cool things about AI is we're starting to see a lot of changes. And one of those is, where your startup starts doesn't necessarily have to be Silicon Valley anymore. It doesn't have to be these areas. And so with that, Erwin, let's kick off the European takeover here, man.
Cool, excellent. Looking forward, honestly, to European takeover. For me, this episode also has a personal touch because both Alessio and Steen, we used to work in the same EMEA solutions architect team, right? So as a solutions architect and solutions architect managers, and I feel kind of attached personally to both of them. And I know what they did. So they're two builders who spend years helping other startups and other companies to build cool solutions in the cloud and to kind of design their entire product development workflow. And then they branched off and decided to start their own thing. But before we go there, Alessio, Steen, maybe you would like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your career before we start talking about Productmind and your startup.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, hi everyone. Very nice to be here. Thanks for having us, and super excited to be talking about Productmind with you. I'll start myself. I'm Alessio, Ermin, as you already introduced. Prior to Productmind, I've been in AWS for about 5 years as a solution architect and a solution architect manager, helping startups across EMEA build, mainly cloud solutions, of course, but focusing for the most in helping B2B startups, and oftentimes also ending up discussing things that were much broader than cloud. That includes product, it includes the software development lifecycle, it includes technology at large. Prior to that, I've been a startup CTO for several startups here in the Netherlands. I come from a IT family background, so basically grew up into the business of IT. And yes, so about a year and a half ago, together with Steen, we decided to embark into a new journey, which we're very excited to talk about, and we'll get that a little bit later. And I'll pass it to Steen maybe for an intro.
Thanks, Alessio, and thanks for having us. Really excited to be here and talking about Productmind. So my background, before starting Productmind, as Alessio mentioned, we were colleagues in AWS, working with startups across the Nordics and Europe in general. Before that, I have been around for about 30 years in software product development in many different roles, starting out as a developer, becoming an architect, working for mainly large enterprises, developing products inside these large enterprises, until I, at some point, started my own startup. So I have a previous startup journey in my belt as well, where I developed a product for enterprises, actually running on-premise. So I have a both on-premise background and enterprise background, and in this way, I complement Alessio a lot, because Alessio has worked a lot with startups, working in startups, and I have the more enterprise background as well.
Cool. I really like how you actually, complement. And then you actually had a safe position at AWS, no need to change. You had this safe corporate life, but you did see the opportunity to something is changing on the market, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't actually just like that decide to found new company. One of the things that we see, and this is what Agentic SaaS Talks are all about, is AI and how AI is shaping the products. So what actually pushed you in a direction of building product minds, and why do we need product minds on the market at all?
Yeah, so I think that there were several questions there. If we start with why we left a really safe and really good job, I can start with that, and then Alessio, maybe you can take Productmind. But yeah, we are both builders. We love to build and invent. And in AWS, it was great to meet lots of startups, helping them to build. But we just felt the need to take our own energy and put into products. So we met actually over a beer in Amsterdam and next to the river and talking about ideas, and just found out we really want to build something together. So we actually started out in a completely different place. We had some ideas about emotional intelligence and having teams trusting each other better, but we have difficulties in finding the product market fit. How could we make a revenue? So, but we actually we discussed over, like, I think a year while still being employed about the different possibilities, and in the end, yeah, we decided just to go for it. And it was not Productmind that was the first idea. We actually started out with lots of experimentation, trying different ideas. We couldn't really see the product market fit, or others have already developed this. But while we were doing all this agentic AI started to really explode on software development. So like 1.5 years ago, using AI for software development, it was like, yeah, well, it could do a lot, but you had to clean up so much. But something happened in November last year with the release of Claude Opus 4.5. Suddenly, it started to work. And we could just see that, oh man, this is amazing. This will change software development. And that was what we found out. We want to help product teams invent or develop products in a better way. So yeah, let me stop there, and Alessio, if you can complement and talk more about that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that was exactly the point that Steen is talking about. In November 2025, things changed. We already, even prior to that, we were already experimenting, of course, with how to use AI in product development more in general. And at the early stage, one of the first use cases that we identified, given the strong summarization capabilities of large language models, the first use case that we found was customer feedback aggregation, for example, and more in general, having the ability for agentic system to entertain customer feedback conversations through chats, of course, or later with the improvements of voice models. That also became possible. So that's where we started with experimentation, because we really didn't feel the confidence that LLMs were yet ready to be trustable in software engineering. So we started experimenting with the corner of, okay, let's help product teams to gather feedback in real time on their products, and then hand it over into their team. So essentially plug it into the software development lifecycle, or the product development lifecycle more large, and let's see what happens. So we started with that prototypes, and we realized that the capabilities were there and were already pretty solid. But in November, Opus became very solid. It became trustable. It became, let's say, a tool that you can actually build upon. And after that point, we then decided to extend essentially Productmind not just into the customer feedback aggregation and potentially the drafting of product specifications. We decided to go further. We decided to think more large. Okay, now that we have those capabilities that can help us both at the input and, well, now as well at output, how can we rethink what software development would look like? Or more in general, we started to talk about product development life cycles, not anymore just software development life cycles. So if we look at the full process end to end, what are the efficiency gains that we could focus on and where Productmind can essentially work as an orchestrator. And two of the biggest parts are still customer feedback aggregation, and now more recently we added several layers that are going more into the agentic engineering side. So how to build according to specification, how to, for example, solve bug reports automatically according to an harness that has awareness about what the product is and what the expected behavior should be. So all of those aspects that are supposed to reduce the friction that currently is between an input, which could be an idea, could be a bug, could be a customer feedback, and eventually a solution. Which could be a solution to a bug, but at the same time, a new feature that is fulfilling a use case or a customer requirement or a customer wish that has come from the first input. And that's how Productmind started to become, let's say, more and more relevant. The context behind Productmind is essentially a main orchestrator that has in mind everything that relates to the product. So it has all these several agentic layer capabilities, but the aspect that makes it unique as opposed to others is that it becomes your central place where all the information related to your product are fed in order to then coordinate the operational layer underneath. So that's Productmind in a nutshell, I would say.
Well,
I can just add that we are so excited about this product because it solves what we used to work with ourselves. So I come from product leadership. I've been a product manager for some years, and Alessio has many years of experience as a leader in engineering. So we represent both product and engineering, and now we have a platform that we use to develop itself, and it's just amazing to see how Productmind can be used to be this collaboration platform between product and engineering. And now we just call it product because these roles are merging together. So you start to see engineers becoming product engineers, starting to think on behalf of users. Instead of just getting the feature specifications. And this is just amazing. And it's just a different way of working. This is true agile, where you focus on what is really important and not using Scrum meetings and sprints and all that. So we believe this could be the future of product development.
Well, I think it really is. And you talked about the revolution we saw with AI and with Opus 4.5 in November. I think there was a second revolution there shortly thereafter in February, because there was two major shifts. So the first one was, hey, wow, AI is really going to help engineering. And the second one is, oh, wait, it looks like AI can actually do some of that engineering work here. And so a mildly technical PM could now actually, instead of telling to engineering, here's what you need to do, and engineering just rolling their eyes and ignoring them, they could actually now suddenly build this mock and send it to engineering as a, hey, here's what it should look like. And so that second revolution came, it's here. A lot of organizations are struggling to figure out what that looks like. And so does the PM team now have any engineering responsibilities? Does engineering have responsibilities, need for PM? So that second revolution is here. And I think Productmind is the right time, right place, because I think there's a lot of organizations struggling with that conversation right now. And they need a centralized tool to help have that conversation, because it's a different conversation than it used to be.
Yeah, you are really point on here, and we will show a demo later exactly what you are saying, that a product manager can implement a feature and see how it works directly without any technical knowledge. So you don't need to be a technical product manager. You can actually do it without any technical knowledge, and we will show you how that can actually be done with Productmind. And this is also what helps product teams to fail fast. You come out of a customer meeting, half an hour later, you have a running prototype, you can show to the customer, you can then hand it to engineering to polish it, or you can throw it away. So you can do lots of these experiments really, really fast, so you can decide what needs to go into the product. Because that is what is hard today, that is deciding what should you build.
Exactly, and where I'm excited for you guys here isn't that the PM team can do these, because they all have a cloud subscription, they're doing them now. What I'm excited for you guys is if we know that all of this is happening, and we do, what tool is organizing the chaos, and what tool is bringing it together, and what tool is allowing everyone to talk about it in an intelligent way, versus just sending, having your agent build code, send a doc that my agent then reads, and so without some kind of orchestration in the middle of it, all of this sounded like science fiction 6 months ago. It's now happening every day. That tool in the middle that allows people to do it, that allows people to talk about the same thing using the same words at the same time, is incredibly important. So again, I think you guys, right tool, right place.
Thank you. Sorry, Kamal. Maybe just to add one point to what Michael was saying is orchestrate and have the conversation is absolutely the point that the Productmind attempts to solve. And let's say on top of that, what is important to highlight as well is that happens on top of your own code base. Because one of the behavior that I've seen in many organizations is that the AI, let's say, enabled PM typically is vibe coding away outside of the code base. It's vibe coding away certain, let's say, features, mostly to prove, let's say, the user flow, or mostly to prove the validity of a feature. But they're doing in a complete different code base. They're not doing it actually in the real code base. So what Productmind does is that it allows PMs, whether they are technical or non-technical, to perform these fast prototypes on top of your existing code base, so that the show it to the customer part can be done relatively quickly. And then still, if the problem or the feature that is in discussion still requires that lens that an engineering team has to add, or that additional layers of, let's say, engineering building blocks that needs to be added, still they can be added after the prototype has been shown, has been proved. So it doesn't create, let's say, two silos where the PM team starts to grow this immense repository of vibe-coded trials that do not really speak the language of the code base that you're working on. So with Productmind, those two things basically become the same, and you have several different versions of a prototype that then engineers can take over if the complexity underneath of that feature requires it. Sorry, Kamal, I did cut you off.
No, that totally makes sense, and thanks for elaborating that. So I guess my question, first of all, I agree with you guys. Like, AI is fundamentally enabling more, democratizing in some ways, how some of the representation of the ideas into code, and enabling different functions, especially product teams, to be able to build the prototypes and etc. Right? I guess first question, the bigger question, let me ask it this way: is Productmind, for the audience, right? Is Productmind meant for PMs to do the demos and prototypes and figure it out, what is working, what is not working, get the feedback from the customers, iterate fast, and then what is working, then ask the engineering? That's one way of thinking about it, right? And so is that the broader idea? Or alternatively, is the broader idea is saying, look, traditionally it has been broken in terms of how the communication used to happen at different layers. And I'm going to define, in my head at least, is these stakeholders, leadership stakeholders, and then there are cross-functional between the product and DevOps and platform engineering and the core application engineering. They're all coming together, and how they coordinate with each other. So is the other way of thinking about the Productmind is, hey, traditionally that aspect has been done. A lot of communication, a lot of collaboration that needed to happen was happening manually. There were TPMs being hired, there were engineering managers being hired, and there are a lot of back and forth on so many aspects. And now you have this system of record and system of engagement, essentially from the product perspective, bringing it all together, not only providing the view to the leadership, but also how these different functions can come together, collaborate faster, better, and and just be more rather than being seen as two different functions, but come more together to get the outcome driven. So which or is it some combination of both? So give us some tell us our audience like how what do you think about it?
Yeah, no, I love the question. Thank you for that. And maybe I can give it a first attempt, and Steen, please fill in if I left something out. I guess the answer is a little bit on both, and it's all about timing. So at the current time, if a new customer would try Productmind, probably they will see themselves a little bit closer to the first option that you have shared. So it's a tool that allows relatively small to medium teams to essentially speed up iteration. Have the ability to keep information in sync and be able to deliver in very fast cycle within the context of the product. But what we are seeing as well as we are building Productmind further and further is that ultimately, as we go, let's say, up the chain, obviously all of those governance aspects and visibility aspects will start to become new layers that will definitely add to Productmind. So I guess it's more about timing, and at the current time, we are targeting SMBs and startups where the decision-making, let's say, cycles tends to be very short, evidence-based, data-driven, and where a tool like Productmind can enable anybody in the organization, potentially even sales counterparts. So there is some use cases that we are discussing with some prospects where give the ability to customer success teams and sales teams to literally rapid prototype in real time with their customers on top of on their solution, in order to identify what the customer needs, what the customer might wish to have in the future in order to close a contract, and those are already possible today. But obviously, as you scale it, if you have a team of 5,000 engineers across the globe with units of development that span across countries and a product landscape, a product surface that is very wide, obviously the level of governance and as well the level of layers that is needed in order to coordinate those operations needs to have a lot more granularity, which we don't yet have, but we'll likely get into that layer.
Cool.
And just a quick add-on to that, if I may, Steen, is if you can touch on that, is the plan then to go to the nirvana state where basically say, hey, look, some of these actions can or some of the work can also be done by agents. So you can also imagine engineers as being virtual engineers being attached to the whole system, and so it become the ultimate all the product decisions of the company, everything about every single iteration, what has been tried, what has not been tried, what has worked, what has not worked, and including even executing some of the tasks, just assigning to the agent. Is that that's what was the second side of the world I was thinking. So basically saying like, hey, you're starting with the first one, but eventually you like to see the more broader and broader use case. Go ahead.
Most definitely. And about, let's say, assigning to agents or humans, that is already part of the product today. So we'll show maybe a little bit later, but essentially the way it works is a collaboration between humans and agents. So you can create bug reports, you can create tasks related to a given product, and then there always is a human that is responsible for a given task or a given feature or a given product. The dispatch of an agent will be always coordinated and started off from a human, which will then have to be in the loop in order to validate what the output is. So we see a point where certain parts of the platform can be completely automated away. Bug reports to certain, let's say, feature types or certain type of tasks that are relatively mechanical. We already see ourselves as like we just click the button, but in reality we know that we could just automate it away, assuming that we would have the right testing framework, the right evaluation framework that allows the output to be fully tested. But the point being is that there will be a choice to decide whether you can go autonomous or to decide whether you want to have always a review in the loop, which is the current way of working at the moment in Productmind. You always have a review cycle before you kick off all of those autonomous interactions.
Cool. I had to be honest, a bunch of questions.
Could I just have one comment on Productmind related to what Kamal asked, and that was around the whole decision and the stakeholder part. How do you decide what to build and so on? What Alessio says that startups and small businesses, they don't care so much about the governance, but we have discussions with enterprises as well. And there it is important to be able to track exactly what decisions did you take at a certain point of time? Why did you promote a feature request to a feature? What are the stakeholders' feedback on this? Not only customers, but the CEO might want a certain feature request. And that is really important. It doesn't matter what these customers says. This internal stakeholder is really important. There might be some competitive intelligence that tells you that you need to focus on this feature request. All that you can log into Productmind as well. So you have the full insight into all stakeholders, external, internal stakeholders. You can add decisions. You can also, we have some governance built in, so you can require, for instance, that leadership needs to approve a feature before you actually put it into production. So things like that, we have some put in because we hear that from some of the larger customers that we discuss with. And it is something that probably needs a much more expansion, of course, when we start to go more into the enterprise space. But we know it's something that is important for product leadership in large organizations.
I'm just excited now to see the demo, to be honest. Right? I think it would help us all to grasp the capabilities of the tool. So yeah. I don't know if you Steen or Alessio, if one of you can actually show how the Productmind works.
Absolutely. So I share my screen. So now I change hat. So now I'm not Steen from Productmind. Now I'm Steen from Acme Support. So I'm a product manager developing a product called Support Hub. And my product, you see that on the screen. And this is basically a support ticket system. And this system even have a built-in bug. So I will actually show you how I fix this bug later on. But this Support Hub is basically for support agents to handle support tickets. And it also has a knowledge base where I can go in and read about my products. Good. So now I switch to Productmind. And in Productmind, I have all information about my product, Support Hub. I put that into Productmind. So Productmind, you can say, is the product context for agents. Everything about product vision, about all the features that are in the product, all the customer interviews that I've been doing, and so on. All that is in the product. What you see here is a dashboard. First, I see the feedback that I've got from customers. I can add some personal interviews that I do with customers, but I can also send agents out and interview customers and collect that. Then we have agents that summarizes customer interviews, and these agents have tools so it can look at what is Support Hub about, extract feature requests from these conversations that I can then go in and review. When I want to implement a feature request, I can promote it to a feature, and a feature is something that is inside my product. The feature, that is basically documentation-driven product. So you write a specification of the feature that you can then break down into tasks that can be implemented. It could be a front-end task, a back-end task, and so on. And then you can start a coding session that implements these tasks. And finally, when you merge it into your production branch, you can create a release that can automatically generate a release note for everything that is put in. So now I've just been in a customer conversation with one of my customers that is head of support, And this customer had a lot of good ideas, especially one that is about how to hand over tickets from one agent to another. So I will simply record the interview that I've got. I just got out of the interview, so this was with Ken Hill, and I'll paste in my notes from the meeting or the transcription. And by the way, if this is a meeting in the future, I could schedule a note taking agent from Productmind to participate, and all these transcriptions would automatically go into a customer interview. I've created the conversation. Now it is in a processing state. You can go in and see here. Here we have the transcript that I just pasted in. Right now, an agent is summarizing this customer call. So we can see a summary and some actionable insights. And what it also is doing, because it has tools to our MCP server. So all the APIs in Productmind, they are certain part of them are MCP enabled. So our agents can, for instance, access what feature requests are already there. So it's complete. So we can see the summary, and we can see this is something about internal notes on tickets and on feature requests. Let me try to refresh. It actually found a feature request. Add internal notes to tickets to a shift handoff. And here I can go in and look at the feature request. And this is written based on my template. So I want to have feature requests into problems, decide outcomes, and so on. So I can look at this. I can then say, okay, I want to promote this to a feature. So I'll create a new feature, and what is going on now is another agent that is an expert in writing feature specifications. Take this feature request. It has also access to Productmind. It can get the product vision. It can find existing features. And based on all these tool calls this agent will do, then it will write me a feature specification, also using the template I have chosen for feature specifications. And this is basically a summary, and then writing the feature request as a press release. And this is something that product managers in Amazon is doing, working backward from what customers need, trying to write a press release before you actually implement a feature. So you start with the end in mind, and then you work backward from there. And it takes a couple of minutes, and now it's there. So we see it has a summary, it has some whys, and a press release, and so on. So I'll just say promote, and here we talked about decisions. So I can record a decision. So I can say very important customer. So now I'm promoting, and for that feature request, we have that decision stored. Why did we promote it? So we can always go back in time and look at that. And now here you see the feature, and this is, as I said, documentation-driven implementation. So we have a document. It can, in real time, several people can work on it. And I can, for instance, say I have a comment here. And then I can add Alessio. So Alessio will get a notification in his Productmind, and then we can collaborate on the specification. And when we are done, we can start to break this down into tasks. So I can generate tasks. And again, another agent that is expert in writing task specifications will generate or break down the feature into tasks, typically front-end, back-end, agent, and so on. And this agent has access to the knowledge base. And that's another term we have in Productmind. We have a knowledge base where all product information, you can upload that, you can import it from Google Drive and other sources. It's put into a vector store where the agent can do similarity search, get all the information it needs in order to generate the tasks. For instance, it would be able to extract what kind of technology are we using, and so on. So the task specifications are ready for an agent to implement. And again, it can take a couple of minutes. Hopefully it will be soon done. And what I can do after I have created the tasks, then I can create a coding session that will implement the task. And for doing that, so you see it found some tasks. Let me just say create. So now we have all the tasks. I can select them, add a new session. We call that internal notes. So I'll create a new session, add it to them. So now I have a new session that we can see here. And what we see on a session, it knows what GitHub repo I'm using, what my development branch is. It will create a session branch. It has all these tasks. And now I can choose, do I want to build this in the cloud? It costs tokens. Or do I want to build this on my local machine using my own Claude Code subscription or Codex subscription? So if I do that, I can draft the plan. So now Claude Code is actually running on my machine, starting to plan this, and will update this session when it's done. Since this will take some time, I will continue on a prepared session for another feature. But before doing that, let me just show you what I think is a pretty cool feature. We have a lineage diagram. So here I can see we are now having this session, the coding session, that will implement these tasks that are all coming from this feature that we just promoted, or that we created from the feature request and back to the customer meeting. So we have complete lineage from customer discussion all the way to this coding session. So let me switch to another session. So this is a session called AI-powered ticket triage. And if I look at the lineage here, we see the request. Basically, the customers want to have an AI able to analyze an incoming ticket and suggest a category and a prioritization. And this comes from actually 6 different customers. So this I already have implemented it. So Claude, in this case, Claude has made a plan, it has implemented it, and it has spun up a virtual environment based on this branch. So you see this virtual environment is actually running the code live on the branch that we developed. So here we see Support Hub running inside Productmind. I can go to tickets. There's no bug there. I can go into a ticket, and we see this triage down here where it has suggested a category and a priority, and even drafted a response. All that has been done by the agent without any work. And me as a product manager, I can go in and look at it. I can open a separate browser window and look at it. And I can show it to a customer, say, was this what you wanted? If it is, there is already a ready pull request based on the development branch in a new session branch that developers can start to work with. So pretty cool, I think. Then another thing I want to show in this demo is also bug reports. So we saw the built-in bug that we had in the production version of Productmind. So I can create a bug report, basically just upload the image. You see it right here. I just uploaded this image. Productmind has an agent that analyzes the image, describes the error. You can build a session. I already did that. So if we go to that session, we see it also has a preview. And here we see the tickets. It's working. And you can see the ticket now without the AI triage. So this way, I can do multiple work parallel. I can do experimentations. The bugs can nearly automatically be corrected. And you don't need any technical competences in order to do these things.
So if I can add 2 things here. I love the fact that you keep presenting it as, here's the value I'm solving for the customer, and it 100% is true. But 2 of the things you're glossing over, which I really want to call out, which is brilliant for what you guys are building, which is you're also building an orchestration engine that allows humans to orchestrate the work as well as agents to orchestrate the work. And that's also insanely important, which means that you're also helping the agents that are firing up manage their context. So, like you said, hey, I'm spinning up an agent here, and he is specifically targeted to write this particular aspect, and he has the context or the information he needs to do it. And then over here, I'm going to, hand it off to your local Claude agent. But that local Claude agent, when you're handing it off, has the right agent, has the right context at the right time. And so while the end product there, the end result is it's far easier for you to show your product to your customer. There's a lot of amazing things that you guys are doing here that will that dramatically increase the likelihood of a company being successful using AI agents to dev. So it's not that just that you're helping them go faster, but there's a lot of issues they're going to hit where, when they fire up Claude the first time, it builds some things and then the product just gets too big for one context session and it all falls down. And so you guys are solving for a lot of that behind the scenes without even, without actually taking the victory lap. So I just kind of want to stop in and take the victory lap for you, because this is pretty darn cool.
That's pretty cool. Thanks, Michael. And absolutely, we called it knowledge base. I think Steen used the term knowledge base. Nowadays, perhaps the AI community calls it more like harnesses. But indeed, what's powering Productmind underneath is an harness that, of course, keeps the data all centralized, but as well the ability for those agents to slice and dice the data set in order to be efficient at the task that they have to perform. So absolutely, that's, I think, a strength that we don't often emphasize because we speak product language. But there is a lot of those aspects that we've been focused on in order to make sure that the final result to the end user is accurate and also easy to understand. So that's not an easy one to achieve in just a couple of loops. So thanks for highlighting that.
Harness is the right word, and you guys have built it without ever saying it. Context management is the right word, and you guys built it without saying it. And it's a clean, efficient way of ensuring that your agents are going to be, one, successful, and two, economical. So my suspicion would be is if an organization who is not using your tool versus an organization who would, I'll bet a lot of money that an organization who uses your tool spends less on AI, because managing the context of the AI and making sure that the AI only has the information it needs, but has the information it needs is key to everything these days.
Yeah, and I would actually say that context for agents, but also context for humans, because what we see is that some companies, they have so many conversations with customers and all this information get lost. So how do you find the right information? And that is also, that context is in Productmind for humans to understand as well. So it's really this collaboration between agents and humans that becomes really strong. And that is what you can do with Productmind.
Cool. You're basically rebuilding product development lifecycle with the tool. I love it. And also what Mike mentioned, right? So the whole coordination and information not being lost, lineage, and it's not just developing faster. It is all that orchestration that's happening in the background, and being able to come back and show what was happening in the past in order for that feature to be developed in large organization, extremely important.
I think in small organizations it is too. And so it's one of the statements you made earlier, which is, hey, the large organizations get that, they know it, and we're adding all the different features for it. The smaller organizations, as you build your first product or a smaller subset, all of that's held within one Claude session or whatever, or it's held in two, or you've got three, you've got a test, a development or whatever. Eventually your code base gets too big for one Claude session, and then you start getting really, really bad results, and you start spending more on AI and you get less value out of it. Having a process and orchestration and a tooling system, the earlier you get it, the better those results are going to be. And so you'll spend less on AI and get better results by using proper harnesses and proper context management. And most organizations struggle with that. You guys got it built in.
Cool. Excellent. Steen, thanks a lot for the demo. Was there anything else you wanted to show, or am I cutting you short?
I can do one last thing that actually matches what Michael is saying about getting the right context at the right time. That is, we also have a chat agent built into Productmind. So I can ask it, for instance, what is the latest feature request? And instead of having to read lots of documents, it can actually go in and call APIs that extract exactly what it needs. And then it says, well, this is the latest feature request, which is correct. That is what we just implemented. And I can also start to brainstorm about it. Do you recommend? And then it starts to search for features and so on. And it actually found out that it is already implemented, that is still in the backlog, not deployed yet. So this way, it's also about finding the right information at the right time, and you can actually use the agent context for brainstorming and getting help on thinking while doing so. And you can even ask the agent to create new feature requests for you and so on.
And it's not only the right information at the right time, it's also that everything is happening at one place, right? Before you would have everyone working with its own tool of preference. Now you have suddenly the whole knowledge about that particular feature happening in Productmind.
Yes, the vision for us is that this is one tool that you need to use for all collaboration around product development. You don't need other tools to do Scrum and to find handle customer conversations and so on. You just used one tool, Productmind.
Yeah,
Cool.
and I think the underlying principle that we're following is when we look at the product development lifecycle more at large, end-to-end. Now that regardless of Productmind itself, now that AI is essentially amplifying both the amount of information that teams have to process, because suddenly now you're exposed to 100x more information, but as well the granularity of that information is changing. So there is a lot more breadth, but there is also a lot more depth because of AI involved in the process. So if that is an assumption that holds true, and certainly we already see the signals that is leading towards that direction, is that coordination will have to assume a complete different shape as opposed as it is today. So how can people process information that is 100 times larger in the most efficient way? And in the past, we used to do a lot of integration, point-to-point integration between systems, but those were very specialized, very specific type of integration. So you have, I don't know, Freshdesk that collects your tickets, then you send it somewhere in Atlassian in order to turn it into an action. And then from Atlassian, there will be an engineer that will pick it up the task, or a product manager that will evaluate the task and then assign it to an engineer in order to perform it. Now, in the way of how we were working in the past, where all of this execution of the process was step by step done one by one, that was fine. But now we cannot possibly do that with the scale that we are about to unlock. So the reason why we think that Productmind could be, let's say, the new orchestrator is because it has the goal to speed up how information is orchestrated across the life cycle, end-to-end, both for humans and for agents. Because in the end, what is good for an agent is good for a human, and that's essentially the vision. So that's our aim.
Cool. As a moderator now, I have still few more questions, and I feel responsible not to run over time. Having it as Michael would branded it, European show. I don't want us to perform worse than the Americans. One quick question. So what is the hardest issue that you had? What is the hardest problem that you had to solve so far when building Productmind?
I think one of the most technically challenging, let's say, aspects was what Steen did show earlier, the live preview. Because what is that live preview, that live editing? Is essentially the capability to run your application in an instance somewhere. It could be in the cloud, but it could also be in your own machine, and have the ability to run it while still have the capabilities to perform live editing, so to perform changes on top of it as you interact with the agent. So that was a piece of feature that required a few layers to be built, mostly because of course every application has a different way to run it. Everybody has a different way to execute applications. But what was the most tricky was how to coordinate the runtime environment for the application with the actual agent runtime that has to then operate on top of the file system that is mounted and that has to edit the changes. So that is high level. Happy to go deeper, but that was quite a difficult one to perform from a system perspective.
Do you use Productmind to build Productmind?
Yes, definitely.
That's so cool.
Yeah, every time I have a customer meeting, just like 3 hours ago, I had a customer meeting. I added it as a personal interview. The transcriber transcribed the meeting. I got it in. I got 3 feature requests out of that. And now I have to work on one of them. So so we are definitely using it all the time. Also for the bug reports, copy paste the bug report, start a coding agent, click the merge and done. So it's we love to use it ourselves. And I think that's an important thing, because if we did not use it, we couldn't expect others to do it. But it really helps a lot.
Yeah. To give you an example, maybe so over the past weekend, I solved something like 20 plus bugs, and I was essentially resolving 5 bug reports resolution in parallel at the same time. And so the agents were just running on their own. They were coming up with all the pull requests, and what I was just doing is reviewing the pull requests and then testing in my own machine just for safety. And if I would have to do that through Claude only, I would have to give Claude the context. I will have to explain what the bug is about. I will have to explain what the expectation should be. I would have to explain a bit more the context about the feature. Otherwise, it does not have the right level of attention. And all of the process would have costed just a lot of time. So now it's literally screenshot, a one-liner that describes what the bug is and what the expected behavior should be. And then Productmind takes it over to the point that I have the pull request ready for testing. And because of the live previews, I can run the live preview directly on the branch that holds the bug fix, and then test it directly within Productmind. So for us, even that we are, let's say, relatively fluent with agentic engineering, cloud-based, we would not be able to do that with Cloud, because you cannot have 5 sessions operating in the same code base with 5 different branches at the same time without ending up with Cloud conflicting with each other. Unless you have 5 machines, 5 containers, 5 everything. But with Productmind, that just becomes super easy to orchestrate and manage.
So you're
and for the founders out there listening, they're saying, well, I get that. I can do that with this. Yeah. But the next step is, what happens when you bring in engineer number 2 and engineer number 3, and what happens when your PM is reaching down? And so the orchestration that you guys provide, I mean, the fact that you can then hand it off to Claude and Claude fixes things fast, that's not nearly as exciting to me as the boring stuff. The clean orchestration, the clean handoff, a consistent place where both Claude and the users are putting that documentation back. The fact that, hey, these 5 bugs fixes were fixed as it relates to this particular customer call, all within the same thread. So when someone starts up on Monday morning, they know those 5 are done, but these 4 are not. To me, that's the exciting part. Is as an old school engineering IT guy, good orchestration cannot be overstated. Claude's amazing. AI is amazing. It allows you to go fast, but it also allows you to create a mess fast.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we hear that a lot from especially leadership when we do presentations. They really love the way that all the coordination of work and the transparency and the lineage that you get, that is what excites them, definitely.
Okay. Closing the show, but before we go there, what is the one product that you cannot live without, or other than the Productmind, of course, right?
I would say Claude Code. That is definitely the one. Yeah. But then, Claude Code together with Productmind and VS Code as well. I think that's for me.
Yeah, likewise. That from a purely, let's say, productivity perspective, that's it. So really, those are the main tools that we really operate. And maybe we could, of course, mention also Recall that we use to gather notes and note taking from calls. So that's been quite a help. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's an amazing. It's a third-party product that we have integrated that take notes, and it does it in all kind of languages. So I had a meeting in Danish, and I have the summary in English. And I don't think that if you're using Google Meet, it doesn't work on Danish. So using Recall.ai now is some commercials for them. It's for free. That's a really cool third-party application that we have integrated that gives a lot of value to both us and customers using Productmind.
Cool. Amazing. Thanks a lot. There, to be honest, right, there are a bunch of other topics that I meant to cover, like how does your architecture look like? How do you run silo versus pool? I wanted to talk about SaaS. I wanted also to talk about your startup journey and how does it look in Europe with funding, VCs versus bootstrap, and where does the money flow? But maybe that's also good intro for another show with you guys if you're open to it. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the beautiful product and great demo. I really kind of enjoyed the session with you, Kamal, Michael. Thanks for joining and supporting the show, and hopefully see you in Michael and Kamal, see you in 2 weeks, and Alessio and Steen, I'm sure that we will organize a follow-up call.
Looking forward to that. And indeed, thanks for having us, for the opportunity. And we look forward to do a second round.
Fantastic Productmind team, and congrats. Thank you so much.
Really nice.